Good morning, all young budding designers, faculty, Dr. Hundekar, and the core team working on this project. It is really amazing to see the energy, the level of energy that Mr. Hemang also just now pointed out, that we have seen many auditoriums. But the charged energy that we see here is very rare. So keep it up. And as you have attended yesterday's sessions, morning and afternoon, and also our friends have spoken about Khadi, handloom, green fashion, everything. Please pardon me if I'm overlapping any of those. As you see the title, Khadi and Handloom, Innovation in Design, I very fondly call it tradition and trend. I have done fashion shows, I have done other lecture presentations with this title, and finally, Ministry of Textiles has done a Tantavi show for which I landed this name, called Tradition to Trend. So the most important aspect of this whole initiative I see is that you have to make what is our tradition as a trend, as a fashion trend. And the very clear understanding of Khadi and handloom, which yesterday we were debating, we were asking whether you have a right perception. I think Mr. Hemadri has given an extensive presentation yesterday. I wasn't there, but he has covered at length Khadi. My lecture presentation will focus on everything little, and it will share how I as a designer work, how I as a business, owner of a business which is 100% on handmade and natural and eco-friendly. So please ask me if there is anything that is not clear at the end of the talk. Now when we talk about empowering handloom and Khadi, it's not only handloom and Khadi, but here Dr. Hundekar's mission is green fashion. And the initiative called Consortium for Green Fashion is bringing all of us together. We are professionals, then some of them are academicians, some of them are faculty, and all of you students. So we are on a common platform to address the most important aspect of fashion movement, which can affect the environment and the quality of life globally. What you do today will have its impact 10 years ago, because I started out as a designer 20 years ago, when handloom, Khadi, eco-friendly was not even a known term. I myself didn't know. But it was a mission, maybe my childhood inspiration of working in rural India, as I come from a Gandhian family, something that has, and at NID, my exposure to handloom weaving and my art background, everything put together, inspired me to work continuously in the rural sector of India with handlooms. Now, yesterday, on and off, we kept debating what is green fashion. And I think all of us going to emphasize on it again and again, so that in September, when you present your collection, you are very green as much possible. So each item is made by hand by talented artisans who live and work in rural villages of India. Is that green? Or the techniques used are non-pollutant and safe? That is green. Or designers use a combination of organic, hand-spun, and recycled material and stress the importance of sustainable and slow fashion. The counter movement to fast fashion. Now we are slowing down. The world is slowing down. So slow fashion is also a very important term which you all can learn about, which takes into account a wide range of material and social factors, as well as the short and long-term impact on the environment. What is it? Is all this put together a green fashion? As a practicing designer and owner of design and production company Creative Bee, I will be sharing with you all what I know and I practice as green fashion. India has been known for its hand-spun and hand-woven textile tradition for centuries, but unfortunately, most of them have been languishing in the past couple of decades. Why Khadi sector, everybody is saying, is going sick? Why handloom houses are shutting down? Although hand-spun, hand-woven cotton cloth is common throughout India, it was not until the early 20th century that the term Khadi entered the nationalist vocabulary, and the cloth became a key visual symbol of India's emancipation from colonial rule. The word Khadi means hand-spun, hand-woven yarn. It could be cotton, it could be silk, which was also known in the past as freedom fabric. It was very lovingly called fabric of freedom. Now, I won't elaborate on properties of Khadi, as Dr. Himadri has shown you yesterday, that Khadi is something that is, it is so, it conditions your body. When in hot, it makes you cool, and when it's winter, makes you feel warm. This is one of the most important character of Khadi that I have experienced as a designer when I design garment. So I would pass on this slide and go ahead. Mahatma Gandhiji's Sabarmati Ashram, I am only exposed to the charkha. I am not yet exposed to Ambar charkha, but today we have in audience somebody from Gondal, and he, I think, at the end of the session would tell you how many hundreds of Ambar charkhas and how many thousands of meters of Khadi being successfully produced. Since its inception, Khadi has defined itself as a fabric of simplicity. It gives elegance and also connects it to the freedom movement and the Gandhian values. It has been promoted by politicians, social leaders, but rarely the designers or exporters have looked at it. Today, after many decades, a rising number of fashion designers are seeking out local hand-woven fabrics and also Khadi. I think in the presentation you have Mr. Hemang here, who himself is using a lot of handloom and Khadi, giving new expression to their fashion collections. Slowly, Khadi is emerging as a fashion trend, and it is very reassuring to see that handloom and Khadi becoming a fashion trend. All of you have seen Khadi, and your institute has very good field visits, I'm sure, but this is how the Khadi, plain Khadi look like. Also, there is a very popular temple weave, which was incorporated from South in Khadi, which is almost diminishing now. There are not many weavers who can make this temple weave. How is handloom different from Khadi? You want me to elaborate on this, or you already know? Elaborate? Khadi, as we have seen, is a hand-spun yarn in warp and weft, and also hand-woven. Is that clear? Warp and weft, both hand-spun yarn and hand-woven. Handloom, on the contrary, can have mill-spun yarn, both ways, warp and weft, but it is hand-woven. Both of these use zero electricity. In most cases, designers like me, who is keen on creating different textures in fabric, will use mill-spun warp and hand-spun weft yarn. I am open to using a good construction. For good construction, I am ready to use a mill-spun cotton yarn, but it has to be natural. So handmade and natural is my policy. And when I say handmade, of course, if I can use only hand-spun yarn, it will be very good. But as a designer, I also have to look at the practicality, the functionality of the fabric, and so I would usually combine my warp as mill spun, and my weft, I create textured surface. As desired, you can create different textures by using wild silks. I'm sure you all know what is wild silk. Wild silk is also Khadi and is also ahimsa, but we have not, we have not made that as our marketing tool. We never said that ahimsa Khadi about 10 years ago. But now there is someone who's taking initiative and making some kind of a ahimsa silk. But by default, what I have been using 20 years ago is also ahimsa silk, because it's wild silk. The wild silk is it works like honey concept, when honey, the bee is eating on different plant and getting different texture, different fragrance. Here the silkworm is being fed on wilderness, on any tree. Then the protein is more, sometimes protein is less in the diet, and the kind of silk that comes out, where the cocoon is already fallen, the worm is already become butterfly and gone. and the fiber is short because there is a hole in the cocoon, and these fibers are hand spun. That becomes a wild silk. And in here, as a designer, the most fascinating thing that attracted me to work with this wild silk was 20 years ago when I went to a small women cooperative in Jagdalpur in Madhya Pradesh. Now it's a part of Chhattisgarh also. They were making just jamkhanas, the floor mats with such beautiful silks, because they didn't know the fashion use or they didn't know the glamorous use of this silk. And since that day till today, I have not stopped using this silk as my weft. And I love creating different textures. And for strength, I would use mill spun yarn for warp. Or sometimes, if warp is shorter, I would also use wild silk as warp or khadi cotton as warp. The process from spinning from hank to the spindle and then segregating the equal thickness and equal thinness of yarn, and everything happens at a cooperative level or at a cluster level. And as a designer, very important for you to see, as yesterday in sessions they have told you again and again, that spend time to see the entire process, what goes in it. Today, if handloom is declining, that is one reason is that support system is declining. Weaver is there, loom is there, but the support system of weaver's wife, weaver's children, weaver's whole family, helping him with the back-end processes is declining. Because the weaver, if fair trade organizations like ours, will be paid well. So the family is earning well. When the family is earning well, the children can afford to go to the college or the institute, wife can watch TV, and there is other luxury at home. So they don't want to do this work because they have always felt that there is a poverty attached to, stigma of poverty attached to this work. This work in the past didn't earn them a good livelihood. So these are the processes. Without that, your loom cannot be ready. Look at the warping. How many of you have seen how the warp is made and how the loom is harnessed? I'm sure all of you have seen. All of you must have seen in an institute like this when Manjuji is so dedicated. I'm sure that, artisans were invited and you were taken to the field and you have seen, but it's in the hot sun. Even in the hottest climate, the weaver would stretch his warp, and his house is not big enough. If he's stretching 50 meters long warp, then, So, to cut short on the processes, this is the tedious way of preparing your raw material for handloom. And ikat particularly. I come from a ikat belt, which is Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, where thousands of ikat looms today look forward to young designers like you come in and revive their dwindling export orders. Why dwindling? Because of lack of color quality, because of lack of new design not coming in, or resistance towards adopting new design, or infrastructure, water supply, like yesterday Mr. Rigo has mentioned that everyone would lack the facility. And that's why orders are dwindling, but there are huge resources available from the government. There are designers who are willing to work in this field. The only need is to put things together. All of us have to come together and see that handloom industry or handloom specialities like ikat or whichever other weaves thrive. Like Banaras is thriving today. Why? Because there are very, very well-known designers associated with Banaras and the production. And a lot of export houses are already know Banaras cluster. Government has launched a large mega cluster for Banaras now. But South has a lot of help that is needed, which has not come to South for I don't know what reasons. There are many beautiful weaves which are going to die within no time. This is the tying and dyeing process. Very tedious again. As many more colors you want to use, that many more times you have to tie and dye your yarn. It's not like fabric tie-dye. It's yarn tie-dye, which is so difficult. This is one of the innovative product you can call. So innovation. You don't have to make ikat saris or ikat bed covers, or even men can have a ikat as a fashion. And ikat, minimalistic ikat is in now. And we have large orders happening from Creative Bee. This is another handloom pocket in Chhattisgarh, which is declining. which needs your help, is crying out for help because it will die in coming 10 years if nobody reaches there, is a Bastar region, a village called Kotpad, where one of the most ancient red dye called al is produced, and the world scholars and researchers have been visiting that place to write books on the topic, but it's been difficult for these weavers to survive. This is how the yarn is dyed. There is a full-length lecture of mine on this topic online, which you can download and then know how fascinating is the process of dyeing this color, through cow dung, processing through cow dung and all that. And if you get a chance, you can visit Kotpad and do a small project. I have presented in international fashion shows the entire collection made out of Bastar fabrics. And the Bastar weaves are very naive. Their motifs are very tribal. And what they have is only one color, that is red. These are we make saris, dupattas, stole, and yardage. And it's coming out in a very limited production. And because it's very limited, it's in demand. But can't it be expanded? Can't we bring some help to that village? What government can do for it? These are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. Now, coming to the natural dyes. Yesterday, I saw that there was a lot of confusion. What is natural dyes, and how much natural is a natural dye? So we have been in it for last 2 decades, and any natural ingredient, let that be bark or root or flower or any natural biomass, we experiment to convert it into color. And we fail 60%. No colors comes out. Like, you will see kesuda, the kesuda orange flowers. You will think that, oh, such a brilliant orange color, and but it will be fugitive for textile unless you have found a mordant which will work on it. We have many experts in the audience here, like Dr. Anjali, who has also spent many years researching on dyes, natural dyes. But we are a large production company. So we had to take any color that we will standardize. We had to use it for, say, thousands of meters of dyeing or printing. These are the ingredients, small vocabulary, but there are still many more. You see the soap nut. In our unit, we never use any soap, any chemical. All our fabrics are pre-washed in soap nut, and also silks are given last finishing wash in soap nut, because soap nut has protein, silk has protein, and the shine comes through that. If you remember, your grandma used to wash hair through soap nut because the hair would shine, because hair has protein and soap nut also has protein. Now, it was very scientific, but we thought it is stupid to use, soap nut and waste your time. And we have moved away from it, and we are now using, ready-made shampoo and other things. And this is al, and this is castor oil seeds, and this is kokum, the kokum that you eat use in dal, and in Maharashtra they use a lot. So each one has its own different use and properties. And marigold is my favorite natural dye. I have done large international collection presentations when I have dyed variety of silks in marigold, and with a different mordant, it will give a different shade. And my weaves are different. I combine very sheer filature silk yarn, if you see in my samples here, very thin, very, very fine yarn, which people would not believe that handloom can weave with wild silk, and make them very sheer, and then they catch the natural dye very intensely, and they look very nice. I brought the samples for you to see that how it feels, and when the textile goes through water for so many times, 5 to 6 times it goes through water. So even silk does not require dry cleaning. It becomes washable at home, in machine. This is, I think, one of the collection that was totally done with marigold, jackfruit, sawdust yellow, and myrobalm, 3 types of yellows, and different textures, brocades, filatures, silks, cotton, and with an embellishment, because I was representing India. So it had to have the little touch of, our embroidery and our paisley and everything. Then coming to, I am talking about the techniques that you would use to do surface ornamentation or create texture for Khadi and handloom. Khadi and handloom, yes, we are using. But what will you do? You will not just put crude Khadi and handloom in your collection. You will work at the surfaces. You will create what the concept is in your mind. Through, it could be block printing, it could be weave in ikat, it could be hand painted. So, pardon me if I'm taking a lot of time on these, but I thought it's worthwhile for students to know what goes in each technique. And very briefly, I'm telling you about. So, any motif that you have in mind can be converted into repeat, can be carved into a wooden block, and can be printed in natural dye. We have our own block making, and we are vertically integrated. You can print tussar silk, you can print fine mulberry silk, you can print khadi, you can, every natural fiber take natural dye very well. So this is the large scale production yesterday we were talking about. See, we can't be responsible for clothing, say 9.5 billion population, but it's not our constraint that even if I have 200 looms, I'm running 200 plus looms, and I am making, say, 10,000 meters of naturally dyed, hand-woven fabric. It is good enough. I have to be satisfied with that. I cannot say that, no, it cannot, if there is an order from IKEA of 10,000 meters and I can't make that order, so I have to switch to power loom. Maybe for you, for future generation, I don't want you to have that mindset that you can't use power loom or you can't use electricity in your production. But at my, that was my policy, which I have imposed on my organization, not to use electricity at any level, even not at a finishing level, and also not to use power loom fabric. So zero use of electricity, because we are all shouting about global warming, and the years ahead, we don't know what kind of situation we are going to face globally, environmentally. So green fashion actually means, to me, is green. It does not pollute environment when you produce your dye. Your dye should be biodegradable. Every end of, every waste that you come out of it should be biodegradable. And it should be sustaining the livelihood. That is another, livelihood is another big, mission that we have taken as. We have sacrificed our name for that. Like we didn't care 10 years ago if Creative Bee didn't go out as a brand. But we did back-end supply to all the brands that you see today, including Fab India, including Good Earth, including Bandage, including any name that you see today, Tarun Tehliani, Ritu Kumar, Sabyasachi. And the company is big. When they have to go green or they have to have indigo, they have to, we didn't mind, or designers from abroad. We are very well connected now with the internet. So when they Google for a kind of facility that we have, we would appear somehow and they would find us. So my message to you is that if you want to go big, you want to go industrial, welcome. There will be some in-between combination of green fashion that you will have. You'll have power loom, but block printed, or you will do maybe hand loom and screen printed. That's your prerogative. But as a practitioner, this is what I am showing you. This is a block printed khadi, and as a man's fashion. It's a very abstract block, as you see, not traditional block. Printed in natural dyes, still very vibrant, and made in khadi. It is reversible jacket. Then another technique comes, which we are working with, is endangered, hand-painted kalamkari from Andhra Pradesh, has also declined. See, what has happened? That the artisan felt, over a period of so many years, felt very insecure. They felt very insecure. They thought that if my price is 5 rupees less, people would buy my product. So as per his understanding, he started devaluating his own craft. He started using cheaper base fabric, the mill-made fabric, very patla fabric. He started doing away with original indigo. He started doing shortcut in every manner, as yesterday they were talking about, due to which he has lost the market. Because if it was not for the handcraft quality, world doesn't want it. It is the most premium handcrafted textile of India that world is looking forward to. And these are the columns. And with this column, they paint maybe 1 or 2 examples you will see here. So this is a group of few artisan, young artisan who were trained by us through government support. They took the training and went away, never came back. They opened a small kirana shop or a phone booth or something or the other, tried to make their living. But 1 year later, they all came back and they said, give us work. And that's when we did a rigorous training. We have a training center at the farm, dye farm that we have, and they are not looking back now. Their products are beautiful. And see, this is one of their silk hand-painted dupatta. And our research department is huge. We keep, the research is constantly on as which museum has what collection, what are the motifs used in 18th century, early 19th century, what was chintz, what are palampors. So the motifs are again revived and then artisan trained to do these ancient motifs again. And these are the innovative products that we do out of that. This is again a long and short reversible jacket in cotton and also in silk, and the world is the market for these. These are accessories and home furnishing. Now, I have very quickly gone through everything that I wanted to convey to you, and then I am leaving it open for discussion. Also, Mr. Hemang has a lot to share with you, but I am now very close to conclude my presentation. I would like you to have a note of these, or we can take a print and give you. There are few organizations in the world who are dedicatedly getting together and working for green fashion. And World Eco Fiber and Textile Forum was set up by people like us about 15 years ago. And the headquarters is in Malaysia. And I'm one of the founder member of that. And every 2 years we will have conferences. I think couple of you have attended or been part of those conferences. Here the scholars, the designers, the producers, the exporters, the whole community which believe in eco-friendly and natural come together. Then there is an ethical fashion forum and the fashion show, which takes place in London, which is very difficult, very prestigious to be selected for that. And so you can, at this point, if you start reading about it, knowing about it, and then you can prepare yourself. And then there is an international symposium on natural dye, which is very scientific in its behavior and its nature of seminars, but still very useful for people who are working in natural and eco-friendly. And the headquarters in Europe, and Dr. Dominique Carden heads this. She's a scientist. And as I was discussing this morning with our colleague and friends, that in Europe, I have seen large-scale production of natural dye, raw material. Also, I have seen companies which are producing natural dye, dyed textiles by machine. They don't have handloom, and they are very business conscious community there, they saw the future, that 10 years, 15 years down the line, the global warming and issues such as this going to really take over, and they have seen the future. We have seen 200-hectare farm of one dye material called madder. So now we are talking about some designers and companies, which I know and I work with. This is Yogan and Lehel, a very big company in Japan, have 44 retail stores, and they have love for Asia. So they have been designing, producing, buying things from Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, and working for last 2 decades in the subcontinent. Then Christina Kim of Dosa is very well known for recycling, upcycling, and using anything that is natural. Then Edric Ong is by profession as an architect, but when he met us about 20 years ago, and when we came up with the idea of World Fiber Forum, his total interest got converted into fashion and textiles. And past 20 years, he's been working with different groups in India and all over the world, wherever there is a natural dye and natural textiles happening. He's a very big fashion label called EO Design. Then Uffe Frank is a very young designer, maybe just 10 years older to you. And he's presently decided to work in India, and he's decided to work with banana fiber and pineapple, and even in fiber, he's decided to work eco-friendly way. So you can look him up and see his development presently. He's also having fashion shows. He's having tie-up with a couple of Indian companies now for his finished products. He's a Danish designer. Now, in India, we have so many designers and so many companies who are working towards green fashion, working with handloom. It is very reassuring whenever I go to NIFT or NID for my jury or whatever, for the entrance jury they invite me. I take 15 minutes to talk to students. And so many of them would say, yes, we want to work in handloom. So that is what our job is here. Why would I leave my work and my business and everything and I say yes to the forum like this? Because I want the younger generation to get inspired. Because we have how many more years? Maybe 10 more years, 15 more years? Then a second generation has to take this whole mission forward. So this is what I had to convey. And at Creative Bee, what we do, of course, I have just put it down here. You can also read it through our website. We work in decentralized manner. So we train smallest weaver who does not get any help. They make into group of 6 or 10 or 20. And then they come to Creative Bee, or we find them and we call them for training. We change their loom, their beam and everything for quality purpose. And then we give them training in natural dye and also as a free or, environment-friendly dyes, what yesterday they were talking about, the reactive and VAT. And then we put them onto the job of doing a new development. So there are 200 plus looms under Creative Bee, and we have to constantly feed these looms. Not even a day. I can be tired, or my design team can get tired and sit back and say, चलो कल देखेंगे. कल नहीं देख सकते क्योंकि उनका warp अगर 3 दिन में खत्म होने वाला है. तो today you have to be ready with the design and the yarn. Same way the farm was created where we wanted to do pure form of natural dye as it was done 200 years ago. So we've studied Kalahasti and all those places intensively and then decided to do this farm and the research on our own. And it is today yielding very good result. We are doing as much quantity as 5,000 meters also in printing, in dyes, natural dyes. So that's it. And then my last message is that our heritage of Khadi and handloom is at the brink of extinction. And as Indian designers, we have inherited the legacy. And I feel that it is our duty to handhold the artisans who are struggling to make their livelihood through handloom, to take them to the next level with our creative talent and innovative designs. The world, the whole world is your marketing platform. So be assured that if you produce something that is quality, hand-woven, khadi, natural dye, the world is the market. Thank you.